After while you see Rachel sitting there, sure.
Very soon.
It's kind of risky in here. It is. I like to
I just asked him to turn it down.
Sleepy.
No, I didn't say anything to him. Jen's on.
She has a fever. Leave her alone.
That's why I created the crowd. Oh no, she's not.
What about this weather is?
You don't want me to take it off. I don't ever wear no sleeves. Well, I don't like my arms.
All right. Anyway.
If you're really cold, we can turn
What
it.
about this weather is now Saturday, 32.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, January 12th special meeting of the Board of the Dover Area School District for architect presentations tonight. Before we begin, could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Benko, could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Rauhauser,
Present.
Mrs. Maley,
Here.
Mrs. Herman,
Here.
Mr. Emig,
Here.
Mr. Eifert,
Here.
Mr. DeLauder,
Here.
Mr. Deschaux,
Here.
Mr. Cook,
Here.
Mrs. Britton. 8 present.
Thank you. First on our agenda is our public comment period. This is a 3-minute period for items on or off of tonight's agenda. If you have any comments you would like to make, please come to the microphones to my right and state your name and address for the record. Okay, nobody's moving, so we'll get right into our architect presentations. I will turn this over to Mr. Nelson and Mr. Cherry tonight.
Okay, for tonight we have our first presenter will be EI Associates. I'll allow them to do their own introduction.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having EI Associates here this evening. Our representatives from EI Associates here tonight are Leonard Morgan here in the middle, Senior Project Manager, Daniel Berzonsky, Vice President and General Manager, myself, Director of Marketing and Client Development, and then we have our consulting partner, Jeff Christ from Gatter & Deal, President. So tonight's agenda, what we'll be covering for you are up here, district needs, a review of your educational needs, our experience as the history of our firm as it relates to middle schools and high schools and the York County area, relevant projects, a look at new construction, a high school, a current high school renovation project, and a before and after of a middle school renovation project. Services provided to the district, we'll cover our basic core services with the district and take a look at what those mean. Charrettes, which is our design process as it relates to you and your stakeholders. Concepts and visions, options for your district to consider, along with visual images to help define those concepts. The role of EI in construction, how our firm addresses the before, during, and after, as well as change orders, how we address communication and look at historical numbers. Our sustainability, which we will highlight for you some of our sustainable projects, and then Jeff from Gatter & Deal will share some insight on MEP and energy savings. And project funding, a look at school districts that we have assisted in achieving funding support. Okay, there we go. District needs. Tonight we're going to look at the educational needs for the district, which revolves around consideration for either a new construction or renovation project for the high school and intermediate school as well. We will have what we have prepared for you and are sharing with you tonight are some concepts that will allow for 21st century design learning and address separation of the academics and the public spaces, along with upgrading the spaces to make every square foot of the school usable and functional. Okay, our services to the district as provided by EI Associates, we'll start with architectural design. We provide innovative 21st century concepts from our design teams. We handle facility assessments, so we'll provide a detailed review of your buildings to assess the condition and estimate costs for you. We'll take care of feasibility studies and providing the research and updates to your demographics and to your last study, as those numbers are now outdated. ADA updates, we confirm compliance with regulations and guidelines and help implement any necessary updates to your facilities. We handle site civil evaluation and engineering. We provide land development, survey, and analysis. Energy upgrades, we can help guide your district in making energy-saving, efficient upgrades based on your educational plan. We provide long-range planning, which is a comprehensive plan of action regarding your projects and future forecasting. We also provide interior design style recommendations based on your input, along with food service design, design concepts that focus on form and function. Security improvements, which we provide strategies for alternatives for improving the overall security of your school and implementing those improvements. Sustainable design, we provide creative approaches and designs to reduce the negative impacts on the environment. Value engineering, we find ways to achieve your desired goals without compromising on materials or overspending. Grant writing, we have a history in assisting with finding funds and reimbursement options to support projects. And then construction support, we ensure a smooth process from the planning and development stages to weekly field visits and punch lists. So then here's a look, a sample of our middle schools or intermediate schools and the high school projects that we have completed over the last several years. And they include both renovations and new construction. A large majority of these projects were designed to create multi-use space for flexible learning. So our experience with York County Schools includes designing and working with the following, which is you. We worked on Live Elementary School and North Salem Elementary School. We've worked with Northeastern on their athletic fields, their intermediate school and middle school. Southeastern, we just recently completed 3 elementary schools for them, Delta Bottom Peach, Fawn Area, and Stewartstown. We've worked with Southern York County on the Southern Middle School, Southern Elementary School, Southern High School, Robert Louse Stadium, and Friendship Elementary School. And we've also worked with Southwestern on Park Hills Elementary School. So we do have quite a bit of history with York County and the area. So, and as you'll see from this list, 90% of our clients are repeats. Now I'll move into some relevant projects that we'd like to highlight that are kind of relate to what you're considering for your projects. So we're going to take a look at Central Dauphin School District, which is a new construction project. Ben Salem Township School District, which is a renovation project on a high school, and it's currently under construction. And then Wilson School District, which was a renovation project on their Natatorium. So here is Central Dauphin School District, the high school. The Central Dauphin School District had experienced a growth in their student population, especially at the high school level. And to meet increased enrollment, EI Associates was hired to provide design and construction services for the new high school. EI performed an extensive site evaluation on this project, and as such, the high school was ultimately located on a new site. The school's overall design was met with the latest technology and space needed to meet current and future curriculum requirements. This high school design has all of the features that your district is looking for with regards to separation from academics and public areas, and was very economically designed and built. What we see here is the exterior shot of the entrance to the building, the upper left image. The glass wall featured is the high school's media center, and it's the main feature for the school. The district refers to this as the room with a view. The window wall provides a grand view of an adjacent mountain range and changing scenery. And the interior shot on the lower right just shows inside the building's entrance. This next image is of Central Dauphin's auditorium and stage, which provides the high school with their desired seating for 1,000 people. And here we see a look at an exterior shot of the entrance to the auditorium and gymnasium in the upper left, allowing for community events to take place and creating that separation from classrooms. The interior shot shows a rather large gymnasium with an elevated track, which you can see up here. And the seating can accommodate 2,000 people. A driving factor in the design for this gymnasium was the district's desire to hold playoffs and to serve a much larger region. Here is a look at the typical art studio for Central Dauphin. The high school has a strong art program, and they needed open space with movable furniture to accommodate changes in their learning environment and to hold large-scaled artwork. And now we'll move on to Ben Salem Township School District, which is a renovation project. The high school's existing building was constructed in 1969 with minimal upgrades during its lifetime. The high school was ultimately a renovation project, and the intent of the project was to fully modernize the building to include renovations as required to create 4 academies. So here are the 4 academies laid out in a conceptual design. They included a 9th grade academy, a Business and International Studies Academy, a STEM Academy, and a Visual and Performing Arts Academy. And each academy will function as a school within a school, and it's connected by a center core area, which includes an internet cafe, a media center, and flexible student dining and outdoor courtyard. So here's a look at a conceptual design for their media center. Since the school is currently under construction, as I said before, we'll just look at conceptual images. This is an open concept with space for collaboration. It allows for students to be able to come together. It's an updated take on a library. The school district moved away from the books and allowed new space for multimedia sources of information. And classroom instruction can take place within the new media center. Here's a different viewpoint of the media center in the upper right here. And then down here is the internet cafe. They both are kind of connected. The internet cafe features no doors. It allows for easy and free movement for the students. It's an open floor plan. So the students can see what's going on around them. They're aware of their total environment. There's visibility between spaces and through spaces with the use of glass walls or no walls at all. And there's no isolation. Here's a look at the concept for the Business Commons, or Business and International Studies Academy. Through the process of developing designs, Ben Salem came up with this idea to add one of these academies and wanted to incorporate this component into their educational programming. So it was really an idea that came from them. This space is acoustically treated up here. And it includes glass to maintain that open feel, and includes a stock market ticker right here that gives the students an opportunity to feel like they're in a true business atmosphere, and it prepares them for real world experiences, and it's not just your typical high school environment. Here's an art studio at Ben Salem, a concept for them. It's another large art program for Ben Salem. And they also needed the large space with movable group tables to accommodate changes in their learning environment as well, and space for storage. Here's the Ben Salem Natatorium concept, which is currently under construction. This will replace the existing natatorium that was cost prohibitive to salvage or renovate. Therefore, the most cost-effective option for them was to build new due to their program requirements. The new natatorium will now meet competition requirements, and the image in the upper left up here, it shows the entrance that can be used for the community. So now there's that separation between academics and community spaces. And here we'll take a look at Wilson School District. This district had a long history of supporting an extensive aquatics program. The existing 50-year-old facility was well maintained. However, extensive renovations and upgrades were needed to meet newer codes and a range of program elements and activities. New construction was not an option due to the existing site restraints, so therefore the facility needed to be expanded internally. So here's a look at the completed lobby entrance that serves the natatorium, and it's separate from the rest of the building and can be used independently. Here's a look at the natatorium. Again, due to site constraints, adjacent spaces were reconfigured to allow for the pool expansion, which increased the pool from 6 lanes to a 10 by 10 lane facility. The new facility has doubled in seating capacity and surrounding deck area. And in this next picture, you can really see in this image the square format. So now with 10 lanes in each direction, this allows multiple groups to hold practices at the same time, freeing up more time for instruction and community use. And the pool, therefore, can be split in half, used for swim practices, as well as other activities in the public. So now at this time, I will turn it over to Dan.
I'd like to look at some before and after pictures. This is a project done very recently for Carlisle School District. It's examples to show you that an existing building can be repurposed. There's a lot of life in it as long as it's sound. The structure is good. But I have some examples that we can walk through. First of all, this was a LEED program. This is an example of a sustainable site. There's a lot of items that are shown on here. They were ideas at the time. We don't necessarily have to do every idea up there. The objective is to get our LEED points for the site. Some of them are very easy, very economical for the school district. Example would be parking for a LEED efficient car, and everybody drives a hybrid. Basically, all you have to do is put up a sign, it's reserved for a hybrid, and you get points for that. Very, very good economical solution. We have some other ones that we have used here in the past, because not only the points, but we were in a situation where we had to control water runoff. At this particular school, we did some rain gardens outside of the building. Because of the water runoff on here, we took the water off the roof, and instead of discharging it into the storm system as an overburden, we created rain gardens where they would come down into the rain gardens. You have plantings in there to absorb the water. And there is an overflow in there if it should ever get so high. But it takes care of the water runoff. Another interesting point is the vegetative roof. You might question, why do you want to do it? We've had a project where this vegetative roof played a big part up at Sealings Grove. Because of the impervious area that we had on the site, we had to find a way to discharge that. If we discharged it off-site, it was going to create a problem for the infrastructure of the borough, of which, of course, the borough wanted the school district to pay for it. Well, you know, why not? But we were able to alleviate that problem by going to a vegetative roof on the school building, which brought us in underneath the impervious water that we had and had to shed from that site. So we didn't have to rebuild their infrastructure. So there are advantages to it. Just an example of a concept drawing, which we would do as well for you, along with your help. One of the most important things through this whole process is teamwork. And we need your help in order to develop it. But an example here, you can see that the unifying arts are gathered together. The physical education, they're all in the same part of the building. The classrooms are separated on the other side. There's a central circulation core in the middle, kind of a borderline. But it allows you to separate the grades. It allows you to have grades come over and use any one of the other areas. And it keeps you away from the other grades, because each grade is going over at a separate time. So it gives you some separation in between grades. Some examples of what we went through. This is an existing cafeteria. We had a discussion a little bit before the presentation about the type tables being used here, which is one consideration. But you can see the lighting here in the materials. It's very hard. It's really not comfortable. There's no natural light coming in. And this was an interior existing space. So what we did, this is the after shot of the cafeteria. We actually took the roof areas. There's 4 roof areas here, monitors. We raised the roof up. And instead of using skylights, which have a tendency to leak, this is actually a roof area with clear-story windows around the side. You can see how it has daylighted this space. Very comfortable light that just flows in. The students really like being in this space, treated with some acoustical material. The superintendent here was amazed when this was done because he was in this building many times when the power went out. And you can imagine what it's like to be in an interior room and the light goes out. And now you can walk in this space and a lot of times you don't even need the lights on. So it's energy saving as well. This was an example of their concourse coming into the building. They had all their lockers in one area. I guess it's good to group the lockers, but you also group 600 students. They all come to their lockers at the same time. There's a lot of pushing and shoving. There's a lot of noise because they're banging lockers and so forth. And again, you can see it is dimly lit, but it is carpeted, keeps some of the noise down. Our solution to this was to move the lockers around. They were in the corridor areas, but one thing we did here too is we wanted to bring natural daylight in. And again, we have an existing part of the building. We repurposed that corridor. We have a light monitor again, the same style as we did in the cafeteria, where we raised that area up. Actually, you may be familiar with such an arrangement back when EI did North Salem Elementary School. In your classroom pods there, in the center, we created a raised area with clear-story type windows. At the time, the thinking there was you could create another learning space out in the corridor. Well, this is along the same lines, but again, you can see how the light bleeds into here. What we did is we went one step further with this one. You can see all the glass areas into the classroom. So the light not only comes down into the corridor, it's allowed to flow into the classroom. And some of these classrooms were interior space, but you don't get the effect of being inside to an inside room because that light is coming into the room. It makes it very comfortable and a good environment for the students. This is an example of their media. Again, it was an interior space. You can see some of the power poles and some of the things that we're using at that time. Again, dark, not a lot of light coming into it. So we repurposed this area as well, although we don't have any monitors. Oh, my fault. I knew I was going to do that. This one with LED lighting. Again, the use of glass in the windows. And you can see right here, this actually leads out into the main entry lobby of the building. So we've gathered that light coming into those frames, and it helps to, again, flow into these rooms. And again, it's very comfortable to sit in there and read or do some research. And this is what the building looked like before we started it. In some ways, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but actually our firm designed this building back in 1969 or 1970. So we were given a second opportunity, and if you look at this, you can see that it lacks windows, there's no fenestration here, the dark metal on here. But that's what we did back then because there was an energy crisis. And we were just learning how to repurpose buildings and what can we do. This is the new Carlisle School. And as you can see here, the lighter materials, more of a 21st century update. There's a lot of fenestration coming into the building, which gives us daylighting. Again, you can reduce your energy costs for lighting and so forth. Here, we have a new entry. On the previous slide, the entry was kind of, you're not sure where it was. Where does a person go to get into a building? It really wasn't defined. But now, you can see where the entry is. And as we always do, and we would with Dover School District as well, is keep security in mind. What we did here was create a security vestibule. So a visitor coming up to the building walks up to the front door, presses a buzzer, very much like we did at Dover High School. But then you enter into a vestibule, a locked vestibule. And you go inside that. The administration side is on this side, which is also locked, but you go up to the window and identify yourself. And once you pass that identification, you are allowed into the administration office to sign in and book, and then you were allowed within to the school. This is a great shot. This is the gymnasium. Again, an interior space, much like the cafeteria. And I think a lot of us here may remember the lights in these type gymnasiums where you would go in and turn on the light, and then 15 minutes you can start playing. So we repurposed this gym. And this is what the gym looks like now. It's the same structure. The walls are the same. But we were able to go in and we opened up the exterior walls. We have clear story lights running all the way around there. And much like the monitors and other items we've seen, you can see the amount of light coming in here. When the students came back after Christmas break and they walked into that space, they just kind of stood there in awe, and nobody wanted to go back to their classrooms. They were really impressed, and again, we treated it acoustically as well. And this was the exterior of the gymnasium before we put in the new clear story windows. And I've got to believe that back in 1969, 1970, because I have seen a lot of this bronze metal panel, there was a salesman who was very good at his trade. Here's the exterior of the gymnasium now. And one thing we did by putting in the clear story windows is now we allowed all this light to come in, but how do we control that light? So on the exterior, you can see the sun shading shelves that extend out horizontally. And that way we don't get the harshness from the sun coming in, and we have even lighting within the space.
So, simply put, schools are what EI Associate does. We specialize in educational design, and therefore we have our finger on the pulse of best practices for creating designs that lend to more effective and efficient learning areas. EI Associates has been providing creative design solutions to school districts throughout Pennsylvania for more than 80 years. The firm has provided over 200 master plans or long-range planning and demographic studies, designed over 100 new schools, and completed overall more than 400 educational facilities, which are specific to each client's needs and goals. All right, and just wanted to touch base on our design process through charrettes. We firmly believe in engaging staff, students, and the community in collaborative meetings called charrettes to map out solutions that will best fit your needs. We encourage the sharing of philosophies to help develop the spaces that will accommodate the educational programs of your school. Through the development of a team, we will ask questions, provide answers, plan for face-to-face meetings, and through this design process, we will achieve the vision and criteria for your schools. We allow for communication beyond our FTP site emails and conference calls. We want to establish with you how we can best communicate with you and meet your needs. And now, I'm going to turn the table over to Leonard, which is what you really want to hear about, our concepts and visions.
Thank you, Danielle. My name is Leonard Morgan. I'm an architect and senior project manager with EI Associates. And first I wanted to just talk a little bit about the 21st century design concepts, then looking at a few options that we've developed for your consideration, and also then kind of some images that we can show some of the vision that we might consider for the school. The 21st century design concepts, we're looking to build a building to inspire students. I mean, to learn and create. That's really what this whole building is about. So, looking at, also making a statement to the community about school pride, about a state-of-the-art facility here, and the importance of education. So, having a building that does that is really what my passion is, to encourage that type of learning. So you're looking at small learning communities, collaborative areas, flexible learning spaces, where you have student team projects that incorporate, multiple subjects, math, English, science, all together, working in small group instructions, where you have, your academy layout. So you're grouping your classrooms together. You have flex space, you're building that around a common core. But also, separating the academic into public spaces. So you have the ability to use those public spaces after hours for the community, really making them a part of the school. And then, of course, using glass and natural light views in and out of the site. Using technology where you're enhancing the educational experience. So you're reducing the computer lab concept, and now you're looking at iPads, wireless tablets, and how that's integrated into the design, where you have charging stations, tie that into your media center, your cafe. So there's a lot to consider, and we're going to look at a few options here for your consideration. And the first is option one, which is to renovate the high school as a high school, okay? So looking at the existing facility, this is a really solid building. In this concept, we would look at complete and full renovations and additions. The additions would be about 63,000 square feet. And the renovations would be all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. Every finish in the building would be completely replaced. So you, in a sense, would really have a new school, but you're gaining some important elements, I think, to consider. One is that you get to keep the football stadium and the track at the high school. You just sent a student to the Green Bay Packers. And it's a proud program that really, I think, deserves to be at the high school, where you don't have a crossover of students potentially, it's just an important, I think, consideration. And another is when you look at the demographics here in Dover. You currently have the second highest taxes in York. And in combination with that, you have the second lowest income levels and property value. So what that means is there's a tremendous tax burden on the community currently. So can we look at how can we reduce cost for the community but still provide a superior and top performing school, something that is brand new? And with this option, you have that ability. You're going to have significant cost savings to do a renovation project over new construction. And part of this concept is reconfiguring the space. So you've all seen the high school, what that looks like. Here on the left is the existing building of the high school, and then here on the right it would be the proposed in this scenario. And this is the first floor So here you can see you have your cafe, here's your gymnasium, your auditorium, your music programs, your auxiliary gym lockers. Here you have your classrooms, your admin here. This section of the building is wood construction. So it's all kind of broken up. You have a lot of division here. If you look at this, what we're doing is we're taking the cafe and kitchen and we're moving that here into this, into the previous auxiliary gym, which is a 2-story space. We can add clear story lighting there. We have a new student entry, which will come off of the main parking lot where all of the students really are coming in from this side. This would be a new entry that would be created, taking out all these walls, so this widens out. You have glass here at the cafe with views across here into the courtyard, so you're getting natural light into that space at the lower level, and you might have an intercommunicating stair here, then that would go to the second floor where we have the media center. So relocating the current media center, which is here, and pulling it here to this side. What that's doing is you're moving all of your public spaces to one side of the building, consolidating that. It also then allows you, the media center is overlooking the cafe space. So you have that glass that could overlook that space. Again, clear story lighting, the intercommunicating stair that comes in off of that. And then that gives you all of this additional classroom space here along this side, as well as a core space where you could have glass STEM programs. And you still have, you're still dividing your areas here by class and grades. So going back to the first floor, then you can expand your athletic program where you have the pool that could seat 1,400 with possibly an elevated track. You have the Natatorium here, 8-lane. You could do with the the diving, the adjustable bulkhead. You can seat 500, and again tie that in at the second level there. Excuse me, getting over a cold. Expanding the music program and arts program here with an addition, as well as off of the auditorium, this new entrance with an addition here with glass that would allow for circulation into the side of the auditorium. Adjusting your support spaces here for the auditorium along the side so that you have direct access to the stage, and then rebuilding the administration in this section as an addition. So here you have it existing. Here you're jutting this out, so you have a new face to the school. It's brand new, new administration area, and then you come in to your ag program. Your CTE then we'd be able to expand that around the side. So now we're expanding that program here. Again, picking up classroom spaces, and then a new STEM core that you could have here, and we could add additions here at the front as classrooms as needed. So. Again, this would actually give you potentially 274,000 square feet for your 1,200 students. In fact, this would be larger and additional square footage than what you would have if you built new. So you're utilizing a lot of the infrastructure that's already there. You don't need to replace the foundations, the slabs, all the walls, the roof structure. There's, you just replaced all of the windows in this building. And really, the square footage here can, with the additions and with the complete renovations, and again, the reconfiguration is really the key. So you're really creating a whole new look for the school internally, as well as the entry along the face, your athletic program here that comes out with separate entrance. Just a lot of benefits there to consider. This would give you roughly around $41.8 million. You're saving roughly $11.5 million over new construction. And you actually have even more opportunities to save money depending on your scope. So we would literally walk through the buildings with you and determine, like I just mentioned, you don't have to replace windows that you've just replaced. So that helps reduce the budget. You have other opportunities. If you did locker room renovations recently, again, we don't have to redo things or throw money away that you've already invested. You've made some other improvements then that help reduce that budget, or there may be things that we can look at.
Excuse me, one question. Are you saying that the total new construction would have been about $53 million?
That's correct, and we do have that as an option here. Okay. Yes. So again, this is the second floor in the reconfiguration. Excuse me, I guess. So, and again, just connecting this media center overlooking the cafe with glass, clear story lighting, and intercommunicating stair to below in the courtyard. Just a completely different feel of how the school really feels inside. This is option 2, to renovate the intermediate center as an intermediate center. Okay, so we have several options to go through here. But again, then if you're keeping the high school, you know, with the football stadium and track, and you're making those additions, you're doing complete renovations, what does that mean then for the intermediate center? We have a few options. One is renovation, and we have another later, which is new to replace this facility. So in this case, again, it's a complete renovation and additions. Your addition here in this case would be about a 4,000 square foot addition here in the front for the administration. As you can see, here's the existing up in the upper left, and then the proposed down here. So as you're walking in the existing now, you can see your administration is separated here across the hall. When you come in, it's dark. It's a blank wall. You know, they tried to renovate this previously, but not really the proper solution in terms of here you consolidate your administration area back to really where it wants to be. You're recreating a new secure entrance. And now when new canopy, again, new face to the school. So, and then as you come in, and instead of looking at a blank wall, now you're looking at this curved glass entry into the media center, okay, which is currently back here. Can everyone see the laser pointer okay with this? Okay. So here's your media center now. Now it's kind of tucked back further. And now what we're doing is we're pulling that forward. So as you come in, now you have glass, you have the new updated media center, and you're immediately looking right through that space outside into the courtyard. So again, you walk into the school, you wouldn't recognize it. Completely different. You've seen the before and after pictures that we're showing, and really giving you something new as renovating the existing building. In this case, then, you of course have a pool currently at your middle school. In the previous renovation concept we looked at for the high school, we looked at building a new 8-lane natatorium. So you have, with the renovation option, you have the ability to keep a pool essentially at the middle school if you so desire, with minimal cost to renovate that. So again, all new finishes within that space. And now you have the option, at least, for a pool at either. Or we could make adjustments to that if that's not what you're looking for. But back here in the Ag and CTE programs, we look at reconfiguring that for ADA purposes. And also, you always have the option, you know, if you need to bump these spaces out into smaller additions to help accommodate that. So here you can kind of see, again, you have, you know, the public spaces, and then all your classrooms area are still consolidated. In this case, again, it's complete renovation. So now you have partial spaces which are air conditioned. This would completely air condition the facility. You would have new stormwater. There are stormwater issues on the site that would be corrected. Excuse me. And with this option, you still, of course, have the possibility of still doing a connecting road to the adjacent elementary school, which is over the stream, back through the woods and to the other. You may want to look at that as really a separate project due to you know, the time frame of getting the approvals necessary to put that across for environmental issues, as well as, you know, likely what could be very costly with bridge structures over the stream and such. So something that you might want to consider also as a separate project with these options. Keep in mind, with both of these renovations options, you're also increasing your PlanCon reimbursement by 10% over what you would get for new construction. New construction, you don't get that extra 10%. With renovation work, you do get an additional 10% of PlanCon reimbursement. So in this option, you're looking at about 132,000 square feet, roughly 17.9 million. And again, you're saving about 13 million over building a new intermediate center. so over new construction. Again, you're using all of that infrastructure and space, and you're at the, you're also giving students an opportunity to kind of participate and observe that renovation project, the technology that goes into that as they're in school. Here then, option 3, we're looking at to renovate the high school as an intermediate center, okay? This ties in with a new high school concept, which we'll go over in a minute. So in this case, this is a fairly complex and difficult problem, because at first glance you say that sounds like that would work. You walk through some of the spaces, but then you look at the square footage of the facility. This facility is between 210 and 230,000, depending on, we're calculating, counting the basement area, and we've made calculations. I know there's some discrepancy in the square footage there, but a significant facility. If you look at really what you need for your intermediate center, you're at about 128,000 square feet is really what you need for your program, for your occupancy. So in effect, if you look at what this building can currently house, according to PDE, you can serve about 1,336 students with this facility. So with your grade 7 to 8, as an example, you have 577 students. Or even if you shifted 6th grade into this facility, you're bumping up your occupancy there to about 877 students. So essentially, in effect, you're really oversized. You're really tearing down 35 to 57% of this building. So when you do that, something has to come out. So you're talking of potentially $1 million of demo, another $1 million, because now you've torn off some part of the building. It's 3 stories at the lower level, so now you have to come back, you have to reface that section of the building. You're potentially talking about $1 million there to install the new facade. And then, keep in mind, now the football stadium and track is at the middle school. So potentially you have a security issue there with that as well, and that now you have students that would be coming from, excuse me, potentially a new high school across the street. Now they're coming over into the intermediate center, where you have, strangers essentially on the campus. You don't know really, are they supposed to be there for the intermediate center? Are they really part of the high school program? What are they, they're around there. That's something in consideration, just a crossover of that with the locker rooms, the restrooms. I know you talked about doing a tunnel or a bridge to make a connection. Again, very complex, costly, and those projects can take potentially years to complete, if they are ever completed, just because of the Department of Environmental Protection, your PennDOT approvals. Again, very costly. I've actually ripped down more bridges over roads because they're just ineffective. Again, it's just something that's very costly, something to consider. And your programs, again, even your ag and your CTE programs, again, very large for what you would expect at the intermediate center. And then, of course, now you wouldn't have that swimming pool at the middle school anymore, which was originally part of that program. That's where you have that. That's kind of embedded into your program now. So looking at this, you might be looking at potentially $10 million, but likely this would be more. This could potentially be $15 million to try to repurpose this facility. If you look at really what $10 million can purchase you, which is part of the feasibility study that you had, by the time you take down sections potentially of the building, you end up with around $62 a square foot. For that, you can't replace your mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, which is typically like $70. You're not getting finishes throughout the facility for that. If you look at the cost that we're using for the renovation of this as a high school, again, $10 million really isn't going to get you much. I think you might be, potentially disappointed in trying to repurpose such a huge facility as an intermediate for what it could potentially be a very low budget. And again, is that really the right place? Is there an opportunity to save money in some of these other options? Again, just something for your consideration. Here, option 4. We're looking at building a new high school on the intermediate site. So here, this is the floor plan of the existing building that would be torn down. Again, roughly you're spending about $1 million to tear that facility down. So now that's $1 million you can't put into your facility. But here we're showing a new proposed high school where you might have your grades here that kind of jut out over. This is the community park. You know, the main intersection, the face to the community, really what they can see. So we're kind of projecting this down over that bank, making a statement to the community. So as you come in here to the main entrance, through the glass, you come in and there's glass here to your cafe, then that really looks straight out through the back. What's unique about this really is you come in to the facility and you're looking out right through the facility. You have the media center, which is directly adjacent to the cafe, your administration here in the front, and then your kitchen, your services. Back here will be your ag CTE. You have your auditorium in the back, your gym and your pools with direct field access. Your parking here is potentially reduced because you have a stormwater issue on this site. And looking at the civil drawings, it appeared that you're directly discharging in 3 locations directly to essentially the stream, which is really no longer legal. So, providing a space on the site then really for a detention basin, which can be significant. So that reduces really what's available to you for parking, and I think is really a major issue. Now, you of course have the option to put, say, stormwater under the parking, but then you've just buried another $1 million underground long-term maintenance issues. So looking at your field placement, your soccer, your tennis. So in this scenario, you're looking at about 250,000 square feet for around 1,200 students. Okay, around 53.3 million. Again, you're about 11.5 million over more than renovating, and you're getting 10% less plant con reimbursement with this option. And again, the football field and the stadium are now really no longer associated with the high school. You have a connection that you're trying to accomplish across the road. Again, extremely costly, time-consuming. Permitting for that could be years in the process. And really, is that the right place for the stadium with such a proud football program, and just sending someone even just recently to the Green Bay Packers. Moving along to option 5 then is, just another scenario. Again, we're trying to cover a lot of bases for you, show you the various options. To build a new intermediate on the intermediate site. So again, this is new construction. We're tearing down the existing building so that we spent about $1 million to do that. Here's your field access, your basin again. Now you have more space for parking because it's a smaller footprint. It's about if you have 7th and 8th grade, you have about 100,000 square feet that you need, around 25 million. If you're looking to move grades 6 to 8 to this facility, you could look at possibly 130,000 square feet. So now you're up around 30.9 million. Again, much more costly than what we could accomplish through the renovation scope and still really give you a brand new school. Again, we're talking about all new components in that facility. You're really just keeping the infrastructure there. So what might be our recommendation in this case? Again, trying to reduce cost and really tax burden and still provide you with state-of-the-art facilities. Again, you've seen those before and after pictures. You know really what we can accomplish. And that's a big part of it. The reconfiguration is also critical as part of the design and providing you with a superior facility. Again, it's not going to look anything like you currently have. So with options 1 and 2, to renovate, and again, you have the ability to further reduce that scope and cost by limiting renovation depending on the needs of that space. So we would literally go through and look to reduce that. So, and again, renovations can be great learning experiences for the kids. They're in that environment, they see the technology, you know, and it's just something important to consider. So there's, you know, kind of moving then along to just some vision, you know, some images to give you an idea. So this might be here, this could be like the old auditorium. You've all seen it, it's dark, there's nothing there, okay? But now we're making that the cafe, right? This is now the new media center, which is moved to the second floor. So you have glass and connection into that, looking out into the corridor. We'd add clear story lighting in that space. As an example, you have the mixed seating. Here you have high ceilings, glass, you have balconies, views of the courtyards, murals. Again, trying to give you some ideas of what some of these spaces could look like. You know, you're connecting the second floor to the media space below and some of our renovation options, so you have a visual connection between that. You have glass in the quarters and views out to the courtyard. Of course, light monitors and balcony spaces that really give you a completely different look. Here we might have an elevated track, again doing clear story lighting. Over here, murals, adding color. You have second floor access to that track and how that really adds to that space. Didn't like the way I pushed that.
Sorry, I had something pop up.
Okay. So here at the pool, we might do second floor seating access. We do a 500 seat access potentially to the track in the back. You have a ramp that goes down into the pool. We do something a little different here with your diving area, so you'd have an adjustable bulkhead separate for your diving. But again, you have outside glass that would provide natural lighting into that space. For your auditorium, again, you know, you might seat the full 1,200. You might reduce that. You know, so maybe you do 2 performances. I know Messiah College just did a new performing center, seats about 850 as an example. But you might add second floor seating and you know, comfortable seating. You have wood in here to soften the space. Here again, you have natural light. You're looking at high volumes. Connecting first to the second floor, you have balconies. Views really into the space. You have the technology and seating, adding imagery. You know, this is part of a collaborative space. Again, some of these are just vision items that we can, you know, what we can do with your spaces. Here you're looking at materials with stone wood surfaces, clear story lighting, you know, visually connecting the space together. Here you have step block seating, which is over here into the circulation, which is great collaborative space. Gives you a lot of options, windows into the space, light. Again, some really high spaces with glass, ceilings that step down and accent. Borrowed light into the center core here, so you get a lot of natural light in there. You have balcony spaces that connect all of that. A light monitor in this case, some balcony spaces, you know, glass walls in the corridors, and views out of the end of the building where you have views out of at the back. And then here you're looking at flexible collaborative space again, where you might have wall marker boards, you have monitors that might be for news or events, technology charging ports, you know, accent walls, mixed seating. And then here you have expandable large group spaces where you might have sliding walls. It gives you flexibility. You're stepping these potentially in tiers. Open access, cloud ceiling treatments, flexibility in that space. And again, you're looking at, you know, flexible seating, technology, integrating some high ceiling spaces and wall monitors, lights. And so we're looking at really trying to manage cost, taking the vision, working together, using our experience, and developing a great school for the students of Dover. And really that's what it's all about, and that's our passion. pass this over to Dan.
A little bit more about quality control, controlling cost. Also, one of the biggest factors in here, starting from almost day one, is teamwork and going through this process together. Because EI can design any building. We're architects, we're designers, but who am I designing that building for? It's your building. And if we want to achieve success, we need to sit down and go through your programs and make sure the building is designed for your use. I think I actually missed one there. Some of the things that go into pre-construction, construction, post-construction. Actually, we've talked about energy efficient design already. We've seen a lot of the daylighting and some of the sustainability on site. But as far as document production, again, not only with the pre-K design development, as well as the construction drawings, we need to meet with teams. We need to meet with your staff, with your administration to find out what equipment is needed, and we need to make sure that stays within budget. As we get to construction drawings, we need the same team. The team meeting changes a little bit because as we get into construction drawings, we're going to be going over systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and we need to make sure those are the systems that you, as a district, want, that your staff can maintain, and also how that's going to be maintained. So it's very important that we work together on that. As a checking procedure, we have a 3-step process in our office that the project manager goes through the set of drawings when they're complete. They're passed off to another project manager because it gives us a fresh set of eyes. It's also given to the spec writer. As he writes the spec, he does a check on it as well. Shortly before the project is ready, we like to make a courtesy call to the IBC reviewer who's going to approve the drawings. We like to go in and introduce them to them, ask some questions and talk with them. And when it comes time to submit that for review, he's already familiar with it. Example of a project schedule, and I think you're familiar with PlanCon as you just finished this project, I think, in 2012. And as you can see here, we talked about schematic and design development, construction drawings. That process normally takes from 9 to 12 months to get through PlanCon, and then we have our construction time. I think your project could take longer than that, and this strictly is based on PlanCon and not the fact that we could have community meetings because we want their input. So that's something we have to work on together. Actually, this is a generic chart, so I guess I'll let it go at that. It is generic. We do have some examples on here. The idea is I just wanted to show you as a way to control costs as we're going through. It's a cost-effective solution. We have project cost and quality control to monitor all the way through. But for example, as far as building materials, we can go in with good materials, or we can go a step higher with better materials, or you can go a step higher to the best materials. Likewise, across the top, we look at the square footage. We work with a minimum state guideline that we use at EI when we are doing a project. And for a high school, it would start at about $175 a square foot. And now, as you take that number against the number of students, you end up with cost. Now, this is your bottom line. It's a good project, but you could go a step higher where you blend. So maybe not every classroom is a minimum size. We've talked about a lot of different programs, and maybe they take more space. So it pushes you into the next number here of more square footage, and maybe you want some better material. That gives you another cost. Or you may want to go to the maximum. We talked about the STEM programs, the flexibility, the open space. That takes a little bit more room. So we have to monitor that, and you may want to go to some of the best material, such as terrazzo and so forth, and it does give you a number. And this chart is here, again, just generically to show you how we can use such items for cost control. But there's an equation that goes along with this, which is basically size, and I'm talking square footage, times quality equals cost. So if you have a fixed cost, then you have to go back to size and quality and make those adjustments. And if you want the building of a certain size, you might have to sacrifice quality in order to do that. So you have a couple of things to work with there. It's one way to control the cost on the job and the quality control. Second way we would recommend is having ad alternates built into bid day. Bid day, you never know how prices are going to come in. I've seen them come in below budget many times. And at that point, we could look at ad alternates, and you can look at possibly larger additions on a building or a change in material. Just an example of the schedule and phasing plan. Once again, this is very important. We've done many of these. Again, we need your input. First of all, what is very important is your educational program. That's what you are here to do. We need to maintain that program. And if we're going to move that program, for instance, if we take this area and we need to relocate those students to allow construction, we have to make sure we can maintain your program in another part of the building. We also have to marry that into the fact that there's existing utilities in the building. At some point, we have to remove those existing utilities, but we have to bring the new utilities on, such as heat. And we have to marry all those items together in order to accomplish this. But it has been done, and we've done this many times. We've moved students throughout the building, and as far as I know, we've never misplaced a student, so it can be done. As far as change orders, we can do all the quality control we want. Some of the items we talked about, unfortunately, change orders still do happen. However, when they do, we'll address them. If it's an architectural under the general construction, EI will look at that. First of all, we'll determine, is that a justifiable change order? Is it something that's already in the spec? In which case, it'll be rejected. If not, we will review it for material cost, quantity, and price. And if we think it's reasonable, at that point, we would bring it to the district. Likewise, if it was mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, Jeff in his office with Gatter and Deal will do the same research and investigation on that. We have found that if we follow the items that I have outlined, that usually our change orders end up approximately 1.8% at the end of the job. As always with every job, the owner does make changes as we proceed through construction. And when we deduct the owner's change orders, we end up at being around 6%. Additionally, at the end of the job, we're not done. We will come back before the end of the first year. We'll walk the project with you. We'll look at the operation, the maintenance, and see if there's anything that we can further come back and take care of, if there's warranty items. And additionally, we're the architect. We never go away. It happens all the time that the project is done, but 5 years from now, because we keep records, we get a phone call and we need some information, or can you help us with something? So we're always going to be there, and we're always a resource. A few words from Jeff on mechanical, electrical, plumbing system.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you and good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present here this evening. I'm Jeff Christ of Gatter and Deal Consulting Engineers. I'm the president of the company. Just to go over a few things, what does Gatter and Deal do? Well, you guys are kind of familiar with us already, and we're familiar with you. We did the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems for this facility that we're in right now. That includes the geothermal heating system. A few things about us. I don't have a lot of pictures, so I have some bullet items that I'd like to talk to, so some talking points. So a few things, MEP team focus points. Balancing project costs with efficiency is very important to Gatter and Deal. So we can design very efficient systems, but they might cost, twice what another system is. They may not have a return on investment. So when we look at projects, we look at them and say, let's use some common sense while we're doing that. But we've got to meet the educational requirements of the facility, the comfortability and the controllability that's needed. Sustainability, energy efficiency. We always kind of think in terms of reduction of carbon footprint. We try to think green from start to finish on projects. And in that we're kind of, in the day and age where energy is extremely important, we've got to pay attention to what fuel sources we're using, et cetera, on projects, and how we use those fuel sources and the efficiency of the equipment that use them. Another thing that's really important to us at Gatter and Deal is making clients aware of available energy rebates, grants, and incentives. And our office is very focused on that. And we've worked with a lot of folks and a lot of, all the utility companies almost across the state of Pennsylvania. By the way, we're licensed in 18 states, and we do projects as far away as San Jose, California, Houston, Jacksonville, Florida, et cetera. So we're all over the country in different climates. But we look at energy rebates on a state-by-state basis, grants and incentives. We've brought over $14 million to our clients in the forms of one form or another of energy rebates, grants, or incentives over the last 5 years. And when we bring them those energy rebates, I just want to back up there one thing. We make you aware of them. We can also apply for them, submit, and we can administer them. So the next thing is we have staff that's easily accessible. Every one of our staff is required to give our clients their cell phone numbers, so we don't care if it's in the evening, the weekends, or what have you. If there's a need or an emergency, we're on call. Listening and understanding our clients' projects requirements is very important to us. We want to get out and make sure we start up front in the forefront of the project and attend meetings so that we understand the design process from start to finish, not come in at the tail end and then maybe miss some very important things. We have a very experienced team. Myself, I've been with Gatter and Deal for 31 straight years, and my partner, vice president, is 29 years. The rest of our staff has over 15 years of experience on average, so we're a seasoned group. The principals, myself and my vice president, we participate as key members of all of our projects. So we're not just, show up once. We're actually involved in the design, making decisions along the way with our project managers and our engineers. I've just thought I'd bring up a couple lead things in case, if lead is something we're talking about, USGBC lead. Some of the options and considerations we'd talk about would be energy recovery and enthalpy wheels. So as we bring in outside air to refresh the school, we have to exhaust air, and we realize there's a cost with that. And we want to, because if you're bringing in 0-degree air and you got to heat it up, that's a lot of energy to do that. So we use energy recovery, which captures about 70% of the exiting energy that goes out in the air when we exhaust it out. We'd modulate our outdoor air via sensors in lieu of fixed settings. So we would do sensor modulation of that air. We use high efficiency LED luminaires instead of fluorescent nowadays. Most of the fluorescent and LED lamps and luminaires are very, very close in cost right now. So almost all projects we design now are totally LED. And that also applies to the site. We also use daylight harvesting to automatically dim luminaires when we have enough daylight outside. So we have sensors on the ceiling that actually sense the daylight that's coming in and then dim the lighting down. So another energy saving component. And these are all considerations, not trying to sell you on lead, just trying to say these are all things, and even on any project, we always touch on these things and see where we're at. Occupancy sensors, they're required by code in most applications, but there are some applications where they're not required by code, where they do have a return on investment. We use VFD-driven equipment to reduce motor energy use, especially under part load conditions. We use energy modeling. We have on staff not only engineers, we have energy analysts, and we have commissioning agents, and we have energy modelers. So we can model your building totally, the complete energy consumption of that building on an hour-by-hour basis, whereby we access NOAA weather data from your local, like the Harrisburg Airport or Pittsburgh Airport, depending on where you're at, or Baltimore or wherever. And we can bring down hour-by-hour data relative to temperature and humidity and whether it was cloudy, and it actually models the sun and what elevation and angle it's at, whether it's winter or summer or what have you. So we do an 8,760-hour model of the building to see how it performs with different insulations, windows, different mechanical system, different lighting systems, et cetera, to try to find that sweet spot for your energy. So we design a building that's well thought out and energy efficient. We use green refrigerants throughout projects. I'm kind of flashing through here in the interest of time. We have alternative and renewable energy design experience. We've done a lot of alternative energy projects, including cogeneration, combined heat and power, whereby we generate electricity while we're making the heat and the cooling for a facility. Renewable energy, we've done a lot of solar and wind. One of the biggest solar jobs that we've done is the Cumberland Valley School District 1.1 megawatt, 5,000 panel system. Now, of course, you have to have a return on investment for that. So we don't just design and say, there it is, and it costs $4 million. Good luck getting it to pay for itself. Rainwater harvesting, that's something some people like to do. It really doesn't have a payback other than it's a get you green points and lead. And if you're somebody that really embraces, let's save the water or what have you, it's a good one for that. But you can use it, clean it up, use it for toilet flushing, urinals, outside gardens, maintenance, that type of thing. Low flow fixtures, pretty much a code-driven thing, but there are additional lower flows that we can go and things we can do to gain points for lead. Consideration for waterless urinals would be even one of those things that goes under the low flow. That's a zero flow. Control systems, levels of integration for controlling your building management systems. That's something that you get into in lead, and you have to kind of balance that out a little bit with the cost of it and the benefit ratio. Commissioning of systems, that's something I would recommend on any project, whether it is a lead project or not. And that's where you have someone independent of the contractors and the design team who comes in and looks at the systems as they're being installed throughout from the start of the project, especially those systems that consume energy, and make sure those systems are installed properly in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. A lot of people say, well, isn't that what the engineer and architect do? Well, that's not in your basic services for engineers and architects. That's just a fact that's, before my time has occurred. But when you have a commissioning agent on board, they really pay attention to all the details, including the very complicated control systems that control all of our HVAC nowadays, because the computer says it's running, but maybe it's just sending a signal to run. It's not really running. Measurement and verification of utilities and energy, we would install systems that measure and meter so you can figure out where am I using all the energy in this facility? Is it lighting? Is it HVAC? Is it heating water? What is it? So those are things. I'm going to put all this up here at once. So just bear with me. Okay. Lead project benefits. You got new construction and existing construction. I just thought I'd put this up here to give you an idea of the gauge of what percentage of savings we see when we do a lead project. And this is historical data we have from our own database in-house over the last 5 years. And new construction, we're seeing anywhere from 17 to a 30% improvement in energy costs for new construction. Existing construction, a little better at 20 to 40. That's because some of the buildings we've worked on are pretty bad. They have no insulation in them. They got poor windows. They're drafty, a lot of air infiltration, a lot of poor mechanical systems, burning a lot of fuels at very efficient rates. When you do a lead project, it does increase the project's eligibility for qualifications for grants, incentives, and rebates. And there's a lot of them out there, and we've worked with the Department of Community and Economic Development, the Commonwealth Financing Authority, people like Scott Dunkelberger at DCD. I've worked with folks like Bill Schuster, Congressman Schuster, and Senator Pat Toomey, and those guys on a lot of this stuff. Our office has also been asked to speak at the Pew Research, a lot of meetings and so forth, relative to renewable and alternative energy. And we've also been invited to participate in hearings with the Public Utility Commission. So we're very engaged in energy, and that's one of the things our firm brings to the table is we don't just slam in a mechanical system into your building. We look at what's the right mechanical system, what's the right electrical, lighting system, et cetera, and we try to find money to help sustain and support some of those. So in short and brief, that's it from our end, and thank you for the opportunity again. I'll turn it back over to Danielle.
Okay, so really quickly, we want to take a look at this list here, which illustrates certified and pending LEED certified projects throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. EI Associates is a leader in sustainable design and has designed for 35 LEED projects, with just over 20 being awarded actual LEED certification. So the ones highlighted in red here have been awarded, and the ones in black are still seeking. This is a look at project funding. Our firm has been very successful in assisting school districts in receiving funding. In total, we have achieved over $21 million in project funding. Our current high school renovation project at Bensalem Township School District has successfully received $2 million through the Alternative and Clean Energy Program. So we have access to funding opportunities to help assist in the research and analysis for identifying potential grant resources, and we have technical writing assistance available to you. And here's, just as we wrap up, a look at what goes into designing and completing a successful project, all the ingredients. It's a look at the formula that we use to help guide us as we move through each unique project, such as yours, and most of these items we've touched on in one way or another this evening. And finally, why choose EI? So we have history with the district and York County, as we have previously stated. We have innovative designs with a mix of experienced and younger, newer design teams that challenge each other. We are specialized in education design, so for over 80 years, EI Associates has focused on education and design, and we take pride in creating learning spaces that will serve you. We're a leader in sustainability, like I mentioned before, designed for 35 LEED projects. Energy efficient minded, we assist schools in finding ways to be more energy efficient for a healthier learning environment and more cost-effective solutions. We assist in acquiring funding support. We've helped multiple districts receive support, and we can do the same for you. We're client focused in our approach. We're here to listen to you, to your wants and your needs, and plan with you a school that will fulfill your educational programming. Collaboration and services, we look forward to the opportunity to collaborate with you and your staff, your students, your community, and serve you to help create the school of your dreams. So thank you for your time this evening. We truly appreciate this opportunity to present to you. And at this time, we're finished. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
I do have a couple questions for you. First of all, what percentage of your business is renovation versus new construction?
Dan, do you want to take the floor? Should we sit? Should we stand?
Wherever we can.
I think we're pretty much split at 50-50
Okay.
percent. We do, as you've seen up there, a lot of new construction, and we do a lot of renovation work. I think we're well versed in both.
Another question I had was, you had mentioned for a major renovation at the high school would be about $42 million versus 53 for an entirely new building. I struggle a little bit with spending what's basically 79% of the cost of a new building to just renovate an existing structure, not knowing I'd get completely what I wanted in the end versus all new. Can you convince me in any way as to what the advantage is there other than saving $11 million? What would be the advantage in that process?
I mean, you get all new mechanical, plumbing, electrical, just like you would in a new construction. Again, all new finishes, so every finish that you see within a space, completely new. And those estimates, really, we're replacing all building components. So, you know, with what really makes the renovation concept give you, you know, as much as you get with the new school is really the reconfiguration. So the design that we were kind of showing as part of the reconfiguration, that's really the key. It's not just another renovation that somebody's spitting out. It's really, looking at the existing building and how can that be adapted to exactly what you want. And of course, we would meet with you and make sure that that's being achieved. But really, you're not really giving up anything at all. I mean, the only really difference is some of the academy layouts that you sometimes see kind of grouped in clusters, things like that you sometimes see in new construction. Here it's more of a linear, but you're still doing that. You still have those STEM cores. You still have those groupings of the grades. So that might be the simplest thing, but again, it's really an opportunity, I think. We wouldn't necessarily recommend it if we didn't think it was a good idea. If we didn't think you could really get exactly what you wanted. There's a lot of schools that we say, you know what, we've been through the school. It's really beyond service. It needs to be torn down. I'd be the first person to tell you that, believe me. We love new construction. That's really the easiest thing for us, for anyone, right? It takes a little bit more work for us to develop that with you. It's complex, but in the end, you really have an opportunity to save a substantial amount of money, which really helps to reduce the tax burden on the community.
Two other questions, well, a question and a clarification, actually. When you go through, if we would go with a significant renovation project such as this at the high school, how do you mitigate the disruption to the learning environment?
Yeah, we've gone through this quite a bit, and utilizing phasing and also modulars as necessary for the construction. So your construction duration could be slightly longer just to allow for that to occur. But again, you're allowing the students, you're basically shifting students around as you're doing this. I've done this on high schools exactly the same size, same kind of challenges. So there's a little bit more disruption, but believe it or not, when everything comes down and the new system is going up, it really creates a learning environment. You would be surprised that there's the plus side to that as well. So yes, there is a little bit more disruption. It does extend the construction period slightly to allow you to phase that. But again, I always come back to, can you get everything you want? Yes. Takes a little bit more time, it's a little more complex, but that money that you save can be either used in other things for the district, for other operating costs, for other programs that you want to expend. And really, you get a whole new school. You've seen those before and after pictures. That's really the selling point of that. It'll be exactly what you're looking for.
Can I just add on to that? I'm going to be very honest. Having been involved in the schools during our last high school renovation, I think it was like early 2000s, late 90s. Our students, in my opinion, were in a substandard school with exposed ceilings, cement floors they were walking on, classrooms that had no floors, that you could literally drop pencils from the second floor to the first floor in the classrooms. So I guess my concern is how can we guarantee that our students wouldn't be going through that again?
There will always be some raw materials that students would have to walking on concrete. But I mean, honestly, you've been in all of the new, retail centers and stores. You're walking on concrete. That's the new thing. So I know it does feel odd, sometimes because you expect the carpet, you expect the terrazzo or the VCT. So yes, it does seem a little out of place at first, especially for all of us. But through construction, we would be managing that process with you daily to make sure that there aren't any issues. And if there are, immediately bring it up to the contractor and have it rectified. So we would be using controls through construction, talking with you in advance for your concerns, making sure that the contractor understands that, and we work around that to make sure that there's the least disruption possible.
There was just one thing I wanted to clarify then in your presentation for our guests from the public that are here tonight, and also anybody that might watch this in a recording. Our business manager would probably have a heart attack if I didn't clarify the fact that our tax rate is actually the 5th lowest in the county. It's not the 2nd highest in the county. So I wanted to just make that clear for everybody. That's a key figure.
Okay. Sorry for that misinformation. I would pull that from some documentation off of the website for the school district, actually.
have several questions myself. And you clarified the one about, I too have concerns about the logistics and the, what you do with the students during that renovation. But it seems like if I'm gathering your presentation well, that's the direction that you would like us to strongly consider from your perspective as an architect. I have really three questions. And the first one, we had a presenter last night who talked about PlanCon, and because we have submitted PlanCon documents that really are geared toward the building of a new school. Am I correct on that? That they strongly recommended that you pursue that direction as opposed to trying to do something, in the way of a renovation. That could create a sticky wicket here in changing midstream here. So that's the one question that I would have. The second question I would have is, we did have construction here back in 2001. What is the PlanCon restriction? We're being told that there's a 20-year wait, that you cannot do any kind of construction on an existing site that has had construction within a 20-year period and still get reimbursed for it. So related to that, I was wondering what your thoughts on those two situations.
I did discuss this internally in how your PlanCon was submitted for new construction. We've actually had success with dealing with PlanCon to adjust that really as part of PlanCon B. So the very next step, we adjust that to the renovation. We show that as the plan reconfigurations, and we've successfully done that before. They work with us, and it really shouldn't be an issue.
As far as the time frame, the 20-year time frame, would that be a strong consideration?
Well, your reimbursement, for major construction is basically once in 20 years for that facility. You still have options to do smaller additions or renovations to that in upcoming years. But again, your major PlanCon reimbursement is on a 20-year schedule for that facility.
So what does that mean?
That wouldn't, you can still do from renovation to new. There's no difference. There's no difference. You actually gain PlanCon reimbursement by renovating an existing facility. You actually get an extra 10%. It's part of an encouragement really by the Department of Education to, instead of taking facilities and just throwing them away, and you literally just throw all of that infrastructure away, to renovate and reuse the schools, you actually get additional 10% reimbursement from PlanCon to do that.
So you're saying we would qualify to get reimbursed then,
Yes,
even though it has not been 20 years?
If I could, Lynn?
Yeah.
You're correct about the 20-year time. In the past, though, EI was able to get a variance from that 20-year rule. We'd have to work with the Department of Education, but if we can prove to them the reasons why you need to do this renovation now, possibly technology upgrades, something along that line, they actually made a site visit out to the school. They looked at the school itself, and we have gotten variance, and it may be the case here.
Okay, thank you. I have two other questions then related to renovation. At the intermediate school, currently, one of the things that is a deterrent, is a handicap there, is the narrowness of the walls. The hallways are very narrow. In your experience there, how much of a difficulty is it in these renovations to widen hallways? Is that something that you've done, you would look at doing if we chose to go that direction with that school?
A lot of the circulations that happen is at the intersections. That's where you really notice, that you don't have enough space. You have the people trying to cross. So a lot of times we'll bump out those intersections to great success to help alleviate that circulation. It would certainly be too narrow, if you were looking at that for a high school, definitely. But I think if you address it mainly at the intersections and for the intermediate, you're probably still within the range for that circulation. But if we need to adjust that in certain areas, we would certainly look to do that. A lot of it depends on the structural design and trying to do that efficiently, but we would certainly make that a priority.
Okay. My last question is at the high school and the ideas that you threw out there as far as the renovation idea and bringing the student access to the side of the building, the main access there into the auditorium, gymnasium, and media center. Where would the general access be? What point would that be the main access point then for everyone, or is that a separate access?
We would still maintain the main entrance at the admin, which is up in that front lower section on the plan that we were showing. So your bus drop-off in that section and your staff parking would still come into that entrance. So as they come in, the students could come in that area, and then they still basically circulate back to the cafe, really before they release. So you have that central core, which is adjacent to the student entry. Now the student entry, again, would be secured at all times of the day. When they're coming in, then that entry is open so that they can come into that space. Again, 90% of your parking really is on that side of the building for students especially. So that allows them to come in there, and then the rest of the day, that's basically a locked off entrance. So you still have your main and secure entrance at the main entrance right at the admin.
With your changes there proposed, is there a new entrance then, the main entrance into the admin as well? It's another area that's been a topic.
Yeah,
We
that's
don't really have a congregational area there that's
yes.
a good
That was
lobby.
one of the additions that we were looking at that was indicated on that plan. That would be a whole new entrance, again, new face to the school. So the renovation isn't just giving you internal changes that are new, but it's also giving you really the new look, right at the front, new entry, new administration, and new secure entry there.
Okay. And I did have one other question for us as a board, and maybe the administration can help this. We talked a lot prior to coming into these meetings here about possibly building a new school and renovating the high school to become the intermediate school. I was just curious what the perceived needs are to do that. I mean, we hadn't really talked a lot about what we would do to the current high school to renovate it so that it could be used as an intermediate school. So some of these ideas that are being thrown out, I'm not sure, are they perceived, weaknesses at the high school that we would need to address? Just curious if anybody has any input on that. Do you understand the question?
I'm not sure.
Okay. If we build a new high school,
Right.
what does our administration really feel needs to happen at the current high school to make it suitable for our intermediate school for 6, 7, and 8?
Well, I think the first thing is to make sure that we have student areas. So that was one of the things that we talked a little bit about, making sure that there was dedicated space to 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade if we decided to move to 6th grade there.
Okay.
So those were now I think that would actually be the major thing that we would actually need to concentrate on. And then we would also talk a little bit about the repurposing of some of the larger CTE areas and maybe how we could take some of the other departments that are within the district and utilize that space to actually reduce some other square footage or other buildings that we have. We could go ahead and release those or sell those. So the main purpose there would be to repurpose the classrooms to make sure that we have dedicated space for students. A lot of the upgrades that we need at the intermediate school are already at the high school, so those infrastructure needs in terms of technology, wiring and so forth would actually be there. Some of the things that we're already doing, and that's why we're doing some of the improvements there now, such as windows, painting and flooring and so forth, is with the idea that we would retrofit that into a dedicated space. So I think classroom space flow would be some of the immediate things that we'd have to make sure that we looked at.
Done. Thanks.
I just have one question. Should we renovate the high school to stay a high school? I have a major concern with the auditorium, especially the entrance. Do you foresee enlarging the auditorium plus making a better entrance, a larger entrance?
The one addition that we were looking at on that side, in addition to that student entry, is really changing that into a new entry for the auditorium. So there was a bump at the bottom there. There'll be a new side entry glass that kind of creates a new face, really. Again, all your parking is over there, bringing that directly in as part of that. In terms of the size of the auditorium, we could certainly look at that, even under the renovation option. But again, maybe we look at that as an alternate, only because the cost associated with enlarging that to, say, 1,100, 1,200 students is very, very substantial, even under new construction. So I'm not trying to say that that really is less in either. So we could certainly, even in a renovation option, look at that. So we're open to doing that in either way. But we also just wanted to point out, you know, in comparison, there's a lot of programs, even at the college level, that don't have, in the auditorium, that number of seating. And it's mainly cost-driven. But we still want to be sensitive to what your needs are and provide you with that. Sometimes, as an alternate, gives you the opportunity not to get a number that's too big that you can't manage, but then, you know, give you that as an alternate so that if we do have the bids come in lower, you can definitely have it.
I just had a quick question too. So if we did the renovations like you talked about, renovating the high school and the intermediate school, when you gave the number, I believe 17.9 million for renovating the intermediate school, did that include, because I can't remember from your pictures, did that include enough space for 6th grade if we decided to move 6th grade up? Is there enough square footage for that?
I know, and that was difficult to determine if you were really going to do that or not. I know I looked at the occupancy at the elementary schools and whether it's really necessary or not to do that. Within that option, I think we'd have to look and see exactly what we might do to accommodate if you want to bump that up, because I know you're at 577 at your intermediate center now. So there's still capacity in that building, at least according to PDE. I understand functional, you know, but we could easily accommodate that again with an addition. So, you know, and that also can give you an opportunity to refresh the front of the building, you know, where you can do a small addition onto the front to allow you to do that, and you reconfigure those spaces to accommodate the 6th grade. So we could certainly accommodate it there. There is enough room on the site to do that. And so if that was your decision, we would certainly include that.
Did that middle school site also include any work done in the gymnasium? Because right now it's not to code.
Yeah. It's slightly smaller than regulation. Is that what you're talking about? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I didn't see that in your plan for an expansion or making it.
Right. The gym is internal there, but there is, in that common core, what we could do there is basically bump that out into the common core. We talked about having, when you move the media center up, right, and we put classroom there along that courtyard, that gives you a lot of space there in front of that gym, which is where I was talking about having that kind of collaborative common core space or breakout space. So you have a lot of space there that we could bump that gymnasium out on that end to give you that additional space that you're looking for. We certainly look at that and as further analysis. I think
the Natatorium at the intermediate school currently.
Yes.
Supposing we did the renovations at both schools and moved that over to the high school and wouldn't need that at the intermediate school, if that's the direction we would go, would that provide the necessary space for 6th grade? Could that be part of the?
Yeah, if you don't need to maintain that pool at the middle school, because now you would have one at the high school, even as part of the renovation project, you could close, essentially fill that in, and then that space would be redeveloped to help accommodate that. So there's a lot of options there, and I wasn't sure exactly if you would want to maintain that school there, really in both cases, just because of the history of that, you know, that program there at the middle school. But that's a great idea to do that, because if you don't want to maintain 2 pools and the expense of doing that, then that space is available.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very
for
much for
coming
your
in
time.
tonight.
Appreciation.
We're going to take about a 10-minute break so we can reset and then come back at 5 of 8, please, for our next presenters.